I'd like to show a game that I played on the internet a couple of days ago. I was black and the time control was 7 minutes with 7-second increments. That is, on each move both players get 7 seconds. My opponent was pretty strong, and although of course as in any chess game mistakes were made, but in overall it was an okay game. The opening was a closed Sicilian, and the first move of course was e4. I played c5, knight f3, d6, d3, knight c6, g3, with the idea of putting the bishop on g2. Now that he's played d3, knight f6, bishop g2, e6, castles, bishop e7, c3, castles, rook e1. Wise idea of course in this position is to play the move d4, and possibly the pawn structure could look like the French defense, and I'm not a big fan of the French defense with either color, so I play queen c7, and now of course if white plays d4, I can play e5, which actually happened in the game, and but that's a bit later on. So you play knight e3 with the idea of playing either knight b5, c4, or c2, which he played. I played a6 to stop the b5 idea, but also to develop a piece possibly on the queen side with something like bishop d7 or something. Knight c2 and of course his idea is to play d4. I play knight e5 because now if white takes, I take back, and those pawns control the d4 square quite good, and also the f4 square. So d4, and I'll just trade the bishop on knight on f3, bishop takes f3, and now e5, d5, knight e8, and the pawn structure now looks quite similar to that in the Spanish game, Ruy Lopez or something. And the idea to play f5 is very common in King's India games. So knight to e3, controlling the f5 square, g6, queen c2, and his last two moves with the aim of controlling the f5 square, knight g7, and now the last move white can actually make is the move g4, but black can still play f5, and also of course a move like g4 would just weaken his king side, so he played bishop g2, of course allowing this pawn to be played either to f3 or f4. I played f5, f3, b5, starting something on the queen side. Now that I have the option to either play f4, take, or just leave things as they are. So I played b5 to develop something on the queen side, a4, bishop d7, connecting these two rooks. We played a takes b5, and here I took the pawn on e4. F takes e4. He does not have the option, of course, to win this pawn, because then I would just take his f3 pawn, and black is just better. So f takes e4, a takes b5, bishop d2. He also connected his. It's always good to connect both the rooks. Rook takes a1. That move wasn't actually necessary, because I think my idea was something like if I hadn't taken here, he could have played rook f1, but on the other hand, white can't really do anything on this file anyway, so it wasn't really necessary. So now I play queen b7 with the idea of playing rook a8, just to control that file. Okay, we can't do anything because my pawn attacks the a4 square as well as the bishop, so it was okay. Rook a8, bishop f3, queen c8. Maybe his idea was to trade off this bishop here, and if I take him or something, if my queen had been on b7, then he could have had bishop queen g4 and penetrate into my game in some way. I don't know. It's always good to prevent moves like that. Quick king g2, I threw in a check, and I gain, of course, as I said, 7 seconds on that move. That is, like I said, we both get 7 seconds on each move. So king f2, bishop d7, and he just moved back. h5, controlling the g4 square. h4, rook a6, with the idea of playing queen a8, controlling the a file even more. So he play rook a3, and he has the same idea. He wants to play queen to a1. I took, because if I don't play that move, then of course he will play queen a1. So I'll play rook takes a3, b takes a3, bishop d8. Looks strange, but it will become obvious in a couple of moves. Queen b3, queen a6, bishop e2, c4, queen b4, and now bishop a5, queen b2, queen a7. It looks tempting. I mean, in a blitz game, anything can happen. It looks tempting to play a move like a4 to weaken this pawn here on c4, because he actually attacks the square twice. But my idea was, of course, that if a4 here, then just bishop b6, b6, attacking this knight twice, and then just picking up the pawn on a4. So he played king h2. I'm not really sure about that move. I didn't have any threats, and his king wasn't pinned or anything. Sorry, the knight wasn't pinned to his king, but he moved away. Bishop b6, queen c1, bishop c5, and now this pawn here is lost. He can't protect it, because if knight to c2, then I will just play bishop takes a3, and if he takes with the knight, I will play queen f2 check over here, and then just win this bishop here on e2. So although it looks like he can protect, but there's no way to protect that pawn. Bishop d1, and here I just win the pawn. Queen takes the queen. Now the queen has come off the board. Bishop takes a3, knight c2, bishop c5, bishop c1. Maybe with the idea of trading off that bishop. It probably would have been a reasonable idea. I'm not sure, because I mean, if bishop a3, if I take, then of course his knight has, I mean, a knight can jump anywhere, and it's very difficult to actually get into his position here, or maybe not, I don't know. Maybe it would have been okay anyway for black. Knight e8, bishop g5. I believe that my opponent was short on time here. King f7, king g2, knight f6, attacking the pawn on e4, which can of course be protected with a move like king f3, or maybe in something passive like bishop f3. But he took. King takes f6, king f1, and now my king starts marching to the queen's side. I have a pawn majority, and he can't really do anything about that. Bishop d1, pinning with a potential discovery here, so it moved away. Bishop f3, and here I trade the bishop, because he has to take, because if he moves to g2 h1, his bishop will be pretty much out of the game, and my king will easily enter his queen side, so he just plays bishop takes g4, h takes g4, king d2, king a4, knight a1. And now that he left the king side, his pawns will fall. And here, instead of taking the h pawn, it's a better move to pin the knight. And on the next move, I'll just take it off, like I did here. King b3, king f2, and now the game is totally lost for white. And just queen, and well, it's over. Okay, hope you enjoyed this game, and I'll see you soon.